I'll go back and just quickly go over drawing a new stair that would be as small as possible between my two levels. So I might even just delete all of that I've done previously. And I'll start with the ground floor again, because that's going to be the biggest stair. So using the stair tool with the ground floor plan open. And then, okay, so as always, the process should be you start with the levels. So we're going from the ground floor and then checking that it's going to the level I want it to, which is level 1. Then you can also, at the same time, check your run width, the width of your stair. So remember, it should be a metre minimum. But when you're making 5 stairs, it's often better to make them 1100, because that allows for the handrail, because it should be a metre between the handrails. So then in properties again, you can see there I've got the desired riser count on 25, and that results in a riser height of 179.4. And you should all know the maximum riser height is 190, so we're a little way off that maximum. And so that means I can reduce that desired number of risers. And I'll just click apply so that you can see the result. And that turns out to, or results in a riser 186.9, which is getting close to 190. So we probably can't go any further down, but I'm just going to go down one more so you can see what happens. So we're going to 23. And then now we've got a riser height which is higher than what's allowed. So that's 195, which is again over 190. So we can't have 23 risers. Right, so we're going to go back to 24. Now you might have seen that message came up earlier, but I wasn't at 190, and that's because if we go to edit type, you'll see this stair, because it's a concrete stair, it often starts with a riser height set to 180, and you can change that to 190. Even though Revit will let you make a stair with a riser height higher than 190, it's helpful to have that set in the type properties just so you don't get that warning all the time. And so again, 24 is the minimum number of risers that we can have in this stair. And then I'm sure you will remember, 18 is the maximum stairs that you can have in a flight. So that means we're going to need at least 2 flights here as well. So I'll start with the location line on, I'll do it on run right, just so I can show you a good little trick here. Okay, so I want to draw up against the wall. Now, that doesn't mean I want my stair to begin there in the end. I'm just doing it that for my own benefit, to make it easier to draw. And it'll all make sense in the end. So I'm going to start there, go to the right, and you can see there that I'm getting the riser count down the bottom. It's a bit hard to see, but in the grey over the wall there, you can see it says 10 risers created, 14 remaining. So we'll go 2 more, so we end up with 12 risers created, 12 remaining. And then I'll come up, and if you're thinking about the way that you use the location line with run right, the right hand side of this next stair flight will be all the way up here. So I can use that point and it'll work reasonably well. But another good option there is to change the run setting to the other side. So if I go to run left, then I can click just near the previous stair. Just makes it a bit easier to set it out. And that way now the stair is on the right hand side of that run. In other words, the run is on the left. Again, just makes it a bit easier to draw. Okay, so that means that now this stair begins here. That's step number 1. And then it finishes up here. That's step number 24. So I'm going to finish it and just show you how to flip it, because I actually want the last step to be the first step, and vice versa, the first step to be the last. So you've got this really handy little option. After you finish the stair, you can flip the whole thing using that arrow that comes up. So now it's flipped the other way. So then it's beginning now with the first step on this side and then the second step here. Okay, so then another good option, you can move the whole stair. It's usually much easier to move the whole thing after you've finished it. And I'm going to move it across. I'm just going to do it a metre actually, because we've got plenty of room there for circulation. So this wall then can be just brought down. And then we've got a metre at the bottom of the stairs. It's not brilliant planning. If I was doing this for a real building, I would probably still give them a bit more room. So maybe another, I'd probably be generous and give them another 200. And so then, I mean, you could probably make it a little bit more efficient than that in terms of the planning, but this works. So then we can have our wall on the other side. So I'll just copy that across. And then, so that wall's very thick actually. It doesn't need to be 300. That could be 200. And the same on the other side. So there, I'll just change the location line to the other side as well, so that when I make it narrower, it goes the right way. And then, just to save time, I'll copy one of these other walls. Okay, so that would work for that level. So I'm just using trim to join those walls together. Again, not the most efficient planning for this level, but I don't think you're too concerned about what happens with the ground floor, and I'm thinking more about what's going to happen now on the level above. So show you a good trick here to get this stair now to go to the next level, and I'll grab a couple of the walls with it as well. I'm just holding down Control to select all of those things, and click Copy to Clipboard, go to level 1, go to Paste, Align to Current Views, I'm sure you're all getting used to, and then now I can just trim these walls together. And that way we could easily have a door that goes into the unit on either this wall or this wall. They both work. Okay, so that's, I think, a pretty efficient stair for this level, but then you might realize that the height is less. Okay, so if we just look at this in section, so the height from ground floor to level 1 is greater than the height from level 1 to level 2. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So that means this new stair that I've just copied is still at the height it was coming from the ground floor. So that's why it's coming up a little bit higher there. And that all comes up in properties. You can see there, I've got the top offset at 370. So to make this the correct height, you make that 0. But then I'm sure, again, a lot of you would now realize that the riser height is less than it needs to be. Now, that's okay. You can leave it at that if you don't need to make it as absolutely efficient as possible. But let's say, let's go, that's the wrong floor plan, sorry. Let's go to the one without the drawing. Okay, so let's say you really push for space and you want to make these stairs a bit smaller. You could then go, and this is the last thing I'll show you, you could then go and edit the stairs. So go and edit them. And when you select the stair, you have to select the flight that you want to adjust. And then you'll see there are two options for dragging the end of your stair. You've got the arrow. So I'll just show you what happens when you drag that arrow. Notice how it's reduced the stairs in the second flight, but it's added those stairs or those steps to the first flight. So that's how the arrow works. It doesn't reduce the total number of stairs in your staircase or the steps in your staircase. Right, it just moves them from one flight to another. Whereas the circle, if I drag that, it does reduce the number of steps. So it's taken it from this one and it hasn't added them to the first flight. And that still would work, but you've got to let it know. So in properties, you can see there it still says desired number 24, actual number 23. So I've got to tell it that I've reduced my number to 23. So my desired number now would be 23 as well. And that still gives me then an actual riser height of 178. So we can go even further down. So 187 with 22 risers. And so then I can just reduce this flight to 22. Now, you might have been thinking, well, why wouldn't I just take it off the first flight? I'm actually going to do that, but you can't do that with the circle. So I've experimented quite a lot with this and actually find that using that circle there to drag the beginning of your staircase can create a lot of problems because it actually will lift up that stair, and that's obviously not good. So a better way is to always take the stairs away from the end of your stair, like I have, and then if you want to add them to the beginning or remove some from the beginning, then use the arrow. So now I can drag this arrow and it's taken one off the beginning and added it to the end. So that now is a much more efficient stair, taking off the 2 extra risers. So if you look at this in the section, you can see just gives them a bit of extra room in the corridor, and you could even potentially move that wall across, but that's probably pushing it a little bit. Oh, and notice also how these walls, they're also too high for that same reason, that they were copied from a level where the walls were higher. And you've got the same issue there. The top offset is 370, so we can simply just put that back to 0. Okay, so hopefully that'll give you a bit more confidence making stairs. So never be afraid to just make a stair to test out size, how big it needs to be, and how long it needs to be to go from one story to another. So I'll just do one more if I use the stair tool, and then just very quickly I can just draw by clicking. And let's say we want one going a different way and we just want to try something out. Right, and so notice how automatically it's picked up the riser heights that I was looking at before, 22 risers to go from level 1 to level 2. And I didn't need to change any settings. Revit worked it all out for me. Right, so that's a really quick and easy way of just working out your stairs, but then hopefully you can also work out some of the more detailed planning as well, particularly if you have 5 stairs. But yeah, it's also going to be the same if you have any internal access stairs for those of you doing 2-story units. So hopefully that's all fairly clear. I might just stop the recording there.